Alrighty. Just gotta make sure this camera's set up again. It seems to be in a different spot every single time I start. So, we're gonna be reading from this book. It's got 4 books in it. 5 Weeks in a Balloon, A Journey to the Center of the Earth, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and Around the World in 80 Days. And we've started at the very beginning, 5 Weeks in a Balloon by Jules Verne. We've read 4 chapters, so today we'll be reading chapter 5. Let's see, the theme for this chapter: Kennedy's dreams, articles and pronouns in the plural, Dick's insinuations, a promenade over the map of Africa, what is contained between the points of the 2 points of the compass, expeditions now on foot, Speak and Grant, Krapf, De Decken, and De Hugelen. And it looks like 4 pages. Hello. We're working on chapter 5. It seems to be a short chapter, just 4 pages. I'm going to go ahead and start. So chapter 5 of 5 Weeks in a Balloon. Dr. Ferguson energetically pushed the preparations for his departure, and in person superintended the construction of his balloon, with certain modifications, in regard to which he observed the most absolute silence. For a long time past he had been applying himself to the study of the Arab language and the various Mandingo idioms, and thanks to his talents as a polyglot, he had made rapid progress. In the meanwhile, his friend, the sportsman, never left him out of his sight, afraid, no doubt, that the doctor would take his departure without saying a word to anybody. On this subject he regaled him with the most persuasive arguments, which, however, did not persuade Samuel Ferguson, and wasted his breath in pathetic entreaties, by which the latter seemed to be but slightly moved. In fine, Dick felt that the doctor was slipping through his fingers. The poor Scot was really to be pitied. He could not look upon the azure vault without a sombre terror. While asleep he felt oscillations that made his head reel, and every night he had visions of being swung aloft at immeasurable heights. We must add that during these fearful nightmares he once or twice fell out of bed. His first care, then, was to show Ferguson a severe contusion that he had received on the cranium. And yet, he would add with warmth, that was at the height of only 3 feet, not an inch more. And such a bump as this, only think then. This insinuation, full of sad meaning as it was, did not seem to touch the doctor's heart. Will not fall, was his invariable reply. But still, suppose that we were to fall. We will not fall. This was decisive, and Kennedy had nothing more to say. What particularly exasperated Dick was that the doctor seemed completely to lose sight of his personality, of his, Kennedy's, and to look upon him as irrevocably destined to become his aerial companion. Not even the shadow of a doubt was ever suggested, and Samuel made an intolerable misuse of the first-person plural. We are getting along. We shall be ready on the such and such a day. We shall start on the so on and so forth, etc., etc. And then there was the singular possessive adjective. Our balloon, our car, our expedition. And the same in the plural, too. Our preparations, our discoveries, our ascensions. Dick shuddered at them, although he was determined not to go. But he did not want to annoy his friend. Let us also disclose the fact that, without knowing exactly why himself, he had sent to Edinburgh for a certain selection of heavy clothing and his best hunting gear and firearms. One day, after having admitted that, with an overwhelming run of good luck, there might be one chance of success in 1,000, he pretended to yield entirely to the doctor's wishes. But in order to still put off the journey, he opened the most varied series of subterfuges. He threw himself back upon questioning the utility of the expedition, its opportuneness, etc. This discovery of the sources of the Nile, was it likely to be of any use? Would one have really labored for the welfare of humanity? When, after all, the African tribes should have been civilized, would they be any happier? Were folks certain that civilization had not its chosen abode there rather than in Europe? Perhaps, and then couldn't one wait a little longer? The trip across Africa would certainly be accomplished someday, and in a less hazardous manner. In another month, or in 6 months before the year was over, some explorer would undoubtedly come in, etc., etc. These hints produced an effect exactly opposite to what was desired or intended, and the doctor trembled with impatience. Are you willing, then, wretched Dick, are you willing, false friend, that this glory should belong to another? Must I then be untrue to my past history, recoil before obstacles that are not serious, requite with cowardly hesitation what both the English government and the Royal Society of London have done for me? But, resumed Kennedy, who made great use of that conjunction, but, said the doctor, are you not aware that my journey is to compete with the success of the expeditions now on foot? Don't you know that fresh explorers are advancing toward the center of Africa? Still, listen to me, Dick, and cast your eyes over that map. Dick glanced over it with resignation. Now, ascend the course of the Nile. I have ascended it, replied the Scotchman with docility. Stop at Gondokoro. I am there. And Kennedy thought to himself how easy such a trip was, on the map. Now, take one of the points of these dividers and let it rest upon that place beyond which the most daring explorers have scarcely gone. I have done so. And now look along the coast for the island of Zanzibar, in latitude 6 degrees south. I have it. Now follow the same parallel and arrive at Kazeh. I have done so. Run up again along the 33rd degree of longitude to the opening of Lake Ukirio, at the point where Lieutenant Speke had to halt. I am there. A little more and I should have tumbled into the lake. Very good. Now, do you know what we have the right to suppose according to the information given by the tribes that live along its shores? I haven't the least idea. Why, that this lake, the lower extremity of which is 2 degrees and 30 minutes, must extend also 2 degrees and a half above the equator. Really? Well, from this northern extremity there flows a stream which must necessarily join the Nile, or if not be the Nile itself. That is indeed curious. Then let the other point of your dividers rest upon the extremity of Lake Ukirio. I don't know how to pronounce that word. It is done, friend Ferguson. Now, how many degrees can you count between the 2 points? Scarcely 2. And do you know what that means, Dick? Not the least in the world. Why, that makes scarcely 120 miles. In other words, a nothing. Almost nothing, Samuel. Well, do you know what is taking place at this moment? Not upon my honor, I do not. Very well, then, I'll tell you. The Geographical Society regards as very important the exploration of this lake, of which Speke caught a glimpse. Under their auspices, a lieutenant, now Captain Speke, has associated with him Captain Grant of the army in India. They have put themselves at the head of a numerous and well-equipped expedition. Their mission is to ascend the lake and return to Gondokoro. They have received a subsidy of more than £5,000, and the governor of the Cape of Good Hope has placed Hottentot soldiers at their disposal. They set out from Zanzibar at close of October 1860. In the meanwhile, John Petherick, the English consul at the city of Khartoum, has received about £700 from the Foreign Office. He is to equip a steamer at Khartoum, stock it with sufficient provisions, and make his way to Gondokoro. There he will await Captain Speke's caravan, and be able to replenish its supplies to some extent. Well planned, said Kennedy. You can easily see, then, that time presses if we are to take part in these exploring labors. And that is not all, since, while some are thus advancing with sure steps to the discovery of the sources of the Nile, others are penetrating to the very heart of Africa. On foot? Said Kennedy. Yes, on foot, rejoined the doctor, without noticing the insinuation. Dr. Croft proposes to push forward in the west by way of the Job, a river lying under the equator. Baron de Decken has already set foot. Sorry, there's no foot right there. Baron de Decken has already set out from Monbaz, has reconnoitered the mountains of Kenya and Kilimanjaro, and is now plunging in toward the center. But all this time on foot. On foot or on mules. Exactly the same as far as I'm concerned, ejaculated Kennedy. Lastly, resumed the doctor, M. de Hughlin, the Austrian vice-consul at Khartoum, has just organized a very important expedition, the first aim of which is to search for the traveler Vogel, who in 1853 was sent into the Sudan to associate himself with the labors of Dr. Barth. In 1856 he quitted Borno and determined to explore the unknown territory that lies between Lake Chad and Darfur. Nothing has been seen of him since that time. Letters that were received in Alexandria in 1860 said that he was killed at the order of the king of Wadi, but other letters addressed by Dr. Hartmann to the traveler's father relate that, according to the recital of a Falata of Borno, Vogel was merely held as a prisoner at Wara. All hope is not then lost. Hence, a committee has been organized under the presidency of the regent of Saxe Coburg-Gotha. My friend Peterman is its secretary. A national subscription has provided for the expense of the expedition, whose strength has been increased by the voluntary ascension of several learned men, and M. de Hughlin set out from Massawa in the month of June. While engaged in looking for Vogel, he is also to explore all the country between the Nile and Lake Chad. That is to say, to knit together the operations of Captain Speke and those of Dr. Barth. And then Africa will have been traversed from east to west. Well, said the canny Scot, since everything is getting on so well, what's the use of our going down there? Dr. Ferguson made no reply, but contented himself with a significant shrug of the shoulders. Down here it's got some extra something here. It says, after the departure of Dr. Ferguson, it was ascertained that M. de Hughlin, owing to some disagreement, took a route different from the one assigned to his expedition, the command of the latter having been transferred to Mr. Muntzinger. And that is the end of chapter 5. I keep looking for the bookmark, but the bookmark's right here. It looks like I've got some stuff down here in the chat. I don't know how to read Hebrew, so I don't know what that says. Is that Hebrew? I think that's Hebrew. It looks like Hebrew. There could be other languages similar. Alrighty. Well, this is the shortest one yet. Only 13.5 minutes so far. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this thing off because I've got no live viewers, it looks like, and I've got some things I want to do before I go to bed. I need to do some Bible reading and some journaling again. And I'm also reading 3 different books, and they're all riveting. One is a scientific investigation of the Old Testament, which is kind of hard to read, but really interesting. Another is Jurassic Park, which is very interesting. I've read it before, and honestly, the book is a lot better than the movie, even though the movie is really good. And I'm also reading the dictionary. Very interesting. I'm at the word add, A-D-D. That's where I've stopped so far, and I'm actually behind if I want to finish it before the end of the year. So, I gotta kind of stop what I'm doing here and get on to doing that. So, thanks for sticking around and watching this. It doesn't look like many live people stuck around, but those of you who are watching this after it is on YouTube, thanks for watching to the end, and I suppose I'll see you in the next one, which will probably be tomorrow, as long as things go well. Again, I'm not doing the live things on Sundays, and I might take off a couple Saturdays as well. But otherwise, you should expect me around 10 o'clock each weekday to read. I don't know how many chapters I've got left in 5 weeks in a balloon, but after that, we'll move on to A Journey to the Center of the Earth. We'll try to get through all 4 of these books here. And then I don't know what we'll do from there. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. So have a good night. God bless.